Ladies and gentlemen, fellas, 3-game NBA slate. It was supposed to be 4, but, routine now at this point. We're losing a game of slate, but we're going to be breaking down the 3-game slate. I already got it almost, I think, all the way broken down. I mean, we have to wait on some news later in the day. Projections are already done. Rankings are already done. We obviously have to wait on ownership as the day goes on. And some type of news, right, guys, that are doubtful we could touch on real quickly and then get right into the plays today. But yeah, it's a 3-game slate. Like, subscribe, do all of those things. I have looked over every single rotation, the last couple of games of each of the rotations. It's a nice thing when it's a smaller slate like we had just a 2-game slate on Tuesday to really digest what each and every single one of these teams are doing on a minute-by-minute basis. Now, that's something that I do for every slate, no matter the size, but I usually do it and finish it up as the day goes on after this video, but we get kind of the initial thoughts on what the rotations look like from the previous couple of games. But now we have a pretty good sense and grasp on what these teams are doing from their 10, 11-man rotations, 9-man rotations for some of them. So we'll break down into all of that and how there's going to be some interesting value type plays on this slate that can really provide some major upside depending on the minutes and what we're seeing hidden in the rotations as of late. Why some players are playing more minutes. Was it blowout run? Is it due to injury? Was it due to foul trouble? There's going to be a lot of things that people get wrong today because they're not looking at the details of it. We're here to set you straight. This is the one spot that you need to be at this point at the Sal Vetri YouTube channel. So I appreciate you all chilling with me at some point of your day. And maybe you're watching this on Friday, but at some point of your Thursday today, we'll be live later today to update anything from news perspective on this slate. We'll be live later on today around 4 p.m. East Coast time for about an hour. So come with any questions that you might have. Player questions, this guy versus that guy, ownership type questions, game theory questions, questions about my day, questions about your day, whatever the hell you want to be bringing to the table. Let's do it. Like, subscribe, do those things. The video, as it has been for a while now for the NBA, is sponsored by SuperDraft today. And since I do have my almost final projections, maybe even final projections, I think that's probably what I'm going to be leaning on putting these out until, of course, we get some sort of news. We're going to be having the SuperDraft projections already done, so we can touch on some of those. SuperDraft is a multiplier format. So, for example, today, Julius Randle has a 1.25x multiplier on SuperDraft, meaning that he gets his fantasy points today times 1.25x. So basically means he gets like a 25% bonus. Julius Randle is my top super draft play today. He's also looking like a very good DraftKings play at just $8,800 for a guy who just played 39 minutes. And Tibbs is playing these Knicks starters like minimum 37, 36 minutes a game for the guys like Randall and RJ Barrett at this point. He's even giving Mitchell Robinson minutes into the 30s and now mid-30s. That's exciting. But yes, Julius Randle is my highest super draft play today at around 59.8 fantasy points. He is my highest by about 3 points over the next closest player. So super draft, again, multiplier format. If you use my name Sal, S-A-L, I don't know why you're not already. Again, I say it every single day. I know there's people that are right now patrons, and you can see the super draft projections down below to actually have a very nice edge. And these contests still are not 100% filling, especially with multiple sports going on. They're not filling. We've had patrons and people in the Discord weekly basically now taking down 4-figure prize pools. We've had about 3 people now within the past month to month and a half win 5 figures, and 2 guys win $20,000 or more. It's just a lot easier over there. We talk about contest selection and preach not playing the big tournaments on DraftKings that have no shot at you winning. You're playing a lottery at that point. We try and preach that if you actually are trying to build a bankroll. This is another way to do that by getting over to different sites where there's going to be less rake, less overlay because contests aren't filling, and just overall less competition and people just paying attention to their lineups. Promo code SAL, S-A-L, start your lineups off with Julius Randle tonight. You're going to get a nice little bump, and that promo code will give you a free money bonus up to $1,000 in a slow drip format. Let's get into the slate now. Let's do it. Thank you, SuperDraft, for sponsoring the show. So, quickly, just touching on the injury news. There's not much on a 3-game slate as of right now. For the Knicks, it is going to be important, though. Frank Ntilikina and Austin Rivers are doubtful, and Austin Rivers has been playing bigger minutes as of late. And the other big piece of news, for the first time in 2021, have not seen Alec Burke since he got hurt, has only played 3 games this year, and in his 2 games that he played before getting injured, he was playing over 30 minutes in those games. Now, is he fully healthy? Well, we haven't seen him at this point in about 3 weeks to close to a month since the end of December, right around Christmas time, the last time Alec Burks played. I'm projecting Alec Burks right now for 28 minutes, but if he's fully healthy, there's no reason he can't play 30 or 32, and at $5,300, he's been a very high usage player on this team. Small sample, of course. But Burks, if he was to start today alongside of a Alfred Payton, right, alongside of him in place of an Austin Rivers, you might be seeing 30-plus minutes since I said Tibbs is playing these guys big minutes. And Burks, from his time with Golden State, wherever he's really been, is a ball-dominant player that's a high fantasy point per minute producer. Over a fantasy point per minute this year, he's going to look very nice at 5,300. And then LeBron has been, quote-unquote, I have the quotes in the notes section, quote, questionable today if you're watching on the YouTube version with an ankle injury. I mean, he's been questionable every single time. I think he's only missed 1 game since being questionable so far this season. So I think that leans about 85% to 90% probable. So we can get into the early interest now, and I'll scroll through because there's going to be a couple of other guys. And we're going to go based on the team right now, right? We'll go team by team. Golden State's been playing playing a lot of games as of late, like back-to-backs on like 4 games in the last like 5 nights, it seems. So they're going to be going up against New York today. Should be a pretty close game. They are 5-point favorites as it comes in. So, I mean, blowout risk is very low in the single digits here. So what are you getting? I mean, you're getting Steph at a decent price point, but I prefer some other pay-up options, especially on a slate where we likely see a competitive game, unless LeBron and other players are ruled out, between the Lakers and Milwaukee. And when those guys are playing competitive games, like the Lakers, right, like Milwaukee just did against Brooklyn, you're probably going to see big minutes out of both sides of that, especially the stars. I mean, Giannis is coming off of a game of playing 40 minutes. That's fantastic. If he just plays 34 to 35, it's a lot better than him playing his 28 to 30 minutes, right? Chris Middleton, you can lock in for like 36 plus minutes. You can get now guys like Brook Lopez probably playing 32 plus. So you can start to feel more confident about some of these guys' minutes and give them upper limits when it's going to be a competitive game and going to be something that probably doesn't lead to a blowout. But from this Golden State and Knicks team, yeah, you had this team playing last night. Andrew Wiggins' price point is now coming down. I think Andrew Wiggins is still a fine option. He's second on this team in minutes right now, and he's $6,200. He's kind of in this price range where you have Drew Holiday around that range. You have RJ Barrett for a little bit more expensive, and then at the exact same price as Jordan Clarkson, who continues to come off the bench, who Jordan Clarkson probably plays a decent amount less minutes than Wiggins. Now, Clarkson fantasy point per minute wise has been better than Wiggins so far this year, like a 1.14 guy. Clarkson right around 1.17 right now. Wiggins about a fantasy point per minute because he's playing alongside guys like Steph Curry. But Wiggins is shooting fine, right around 55% effective field goal rate. He's not a priority for me right now. If I look overall on where I have him ranked right now on Patreon down below, you can follow along with all these projections, rankings on Patreon. It's just linked down below, patreon.com/Sal_Vetri_. I have Wiggins right around a top 5 play on a smaller slate tonight, so he's going to look good. James Wiseman is also going to look decent as well. James Wiseman is my number 8 overall play and right around my number 2 or 3 center play, depending on what you're looking for in terms of a GPP upside, right? The ceiling type potential. James Wiseman last night, he's kind of blowout proof. Like when the game blows out, they still keep him in there. James Wiseman, outside of the one game when he got into foul trouble, only played 19 minutes. In his 3 out of his last 4 games, he's playing 24 or more minutes. They're trying to give this guy minutes, but it's kind of a messy sample because of blowouts in there and hard to judge what happens down the stretch. Also a little bit more difficult of a matchup now against guys like Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, a bigger front court, but I do think that James Wiseman at $4,500 is still a decent play. He grades out for me again as a nice play. I have James Wiseman right now linked down below on Patreon for around 23.4 fantasy points. He's hit or miss. He's hot or cold. I assume he's going to be very highly owned today because there's not that many 4K options. There's a couple, and we'll talk about them, but not that many 4K options, especially at the center position, a position where you can kind of get some stability out of your floor of a player as long as they're not in foul trouble. We can move over to the Lakers now, and it's mainly just the guys that you probably already know about. LeBron and Anthony Davis, I think, play big minutes. I prefer LeBron for $200 less than Anthony Davis, assuming that he's playing. These are very cheap price points, and not only are they cheap price points, but the prices are trending down. Well, because, I mean, you're just not getting 35, 36, 37 minutes out of these guys, so they're not getting there as much. When you get only 30 or 32 minutes out of LeBron, I mean, his performances of 45 to 50 fantasy points are really closer to 45 as of late. They're not terrible in that minutes, but the price point is assuming he's going to play what he was doing last year, 35 or 36. But assuming he goes today, I think that you're probably going to see towards those 35 or 36 minutes in a competitive game out of LeBron James, who still does lead this team in minutes right now. He also leads the team in usage at a 32% clip, averaging about 1.44 fantasy points per minute so far this season. Anthony Davis around 1.35. That's probably where you're going to be seeing it more times than not, stabilizing it. You saw a lot of that last year, but 36% assist percentage, one of the highest in the NBA. I think he's top 3 in the NBA right now, still getting the defensive rebounding rate about above 20%. He's a decent play on Superdraft, but the 1x multiplier doesn't make it as appealing, but $9,200 in DraftKings is very good on a small slate for LeBron, assuming he's going to be in there. If he's out, then Anthony Davis is the best play on the slate at $9,400, but both of them are in play. Give me LeBron over Davis. Montrezl Harrell, I think you're starting to see some more minutes. The problem here that I have is this probably comes up more so in the playoffs against teams like Milwaukee when you need somebody who's a little bit better of a defender on the court, and at that point, you might not even be putting Marc Gasol out there. You might have none of those centers out there at that point. That's why I think Montrezl Harrell, good on offense, liability in a major way on defense, but I think that you probably see him stay out there a little bit more. He's only $5,200. He would be the pivot if you had James Wiseman for $700 less, coming in at like double the ownership. Harrell's just your direct pivot then. I gave Harrell tonight 26 minutes. It starts to make Montrezl Harrell look like a pretty quality play. I still have Wiseman grading out as a better play right now, but nothing in a major regard. I have Harrell as my 12th overall play in the slate. And now we can get into Milwaukee, where I think you're going to be seeing a lot of upside here. So let me just scroll down so you can see the rest of the guys on this picture, and I don't even know if you'll be able to see all of them on YouTube, but we'll continue to scroll. Milwaukee's the team that I really want to talk about today because I'm going to be very high on Milwaukee, right? We just saw Milwaukee come off of a very competitive game recently against Brooklyn, and you saw these guys play massive minutes. You saw upper 30s in minutes for Drew Holiday. You saw upper 30s for Chris Middleton, 40 minutes flat for Giannis. Brook Lopez was playing mid-30s in minutes as his price point is definitely coming up, but nowhere near as much as it should be if that's the minutes we're going to get. And now assuming that this game is going to be close, a decent team total of 114.25, decent pace environment right around slightly below league average, but assuming that this game is going to be close, I expect big minutes here. I gave Chris Middleton 37. I gave Giannis 35, and he just played 40 in a competitive game. He can definitely play more than that, but his season average so far for Giannis is 32, so that's a pretty big bump to his minutes. I'm giving Brook Lopez 32, where he's been playing around so far this season. The last week or two, he's been playing around that 30 to 32 minute range, coming off of a game of about 33.5 minutes. He's only averaging 27 on the year. Drew Holiday I gave 35 minutes, who's averaging 32.5 on the year. So it's really more so because of the minutes here, right? Giannis at $10,500 is probably going to be right now on the slate my favorite pay-up option. I have Giannis as a very quality play because once he starts getting minutes, and all these guys in general, they look very good. Chris Middleton is probably my favorite play on this team, though. Like I like Giannis. I'm going to try and start my lineup there because the overall points upside is 60 plus. If he goes out there and plays 40 minutes, it's 70 to 80 plus, depending on how involved he is. And I expect, based on his usage percentage on this team and how many minutes we expect him to play, that Giannis is going to be very involved with a 35% usage rate, a 26% assist percentage, and a 28.5 defensive rebounding rate. The more minutes he plays, the triple-double upside, and I mean, lock in a double-double, but triple-double upside is very much so in the cards tonight. So give me Middleton, give me Giannis. Those two guys for me tonight are going to be priorities. Brooke Lopez, Drew Holiday is more so of a filler, right? He's in that range like we already talked about of some other guys on this slate. Whether it's an RJ Barrett, whether it's a Jordan Clarkson, whether it's a Wiggins, like in that range, you probably have to pick one of those guys. It'll kind of probably come down to ownership, as they all kind of grade out pretty similarly for me tonight. Nobody's standing out in a major way. I think that Wiggins is the one that I like the most, but I assume the ownership follows that, so you might have to make somewhat of a move there. Brooke Lopez, kind of neck and neck, same exact analysis as you have for Harrell, Brooke Lopez, and James Wiseman. Wiseman's the cheapest one. I assume coming off of a nice game, a lot of ownership there, 20 real-life points last night. So if Wiseman's going to be crazy owned, well, then getting to a guy like Brooke Lopez, who you can lock in more times than not for like 10 more minutes, or at least 8 more minutes than a James Wiseman for just a couple $100 more, that starts to become pretty appealing for me, assuming you find value elsewhere. Because again, this slate is starting to lack value in Wiseman, a center. Hard to get away from that type of value if we can get somewhere in the 20s of minutes for him. Now we can scroll down to New York, where I think you're going to have to kind of break down this slate a decent amount and actually look into this slate. The one thing I want to touch on before we get to New York, because we're kind of going alphabetical order, is that I don't have any Pelicans on the slate right now because I think they're all appropriately priced. But there's one major thing to point out for the Pelicans, because I know I'll get the question today about Alexander Walker, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Lonzo came back in the last game, and he was basically playing 5.5-minute stints. So I have Lonzo Ball today projected for like 6-minute stints, around 25 minutes a play or so, and he doesn't look like that great of a play, right? The price point hasn't dropped enough. Alexander Walker in that last game played 30-plus minutes, and you only had Eric Bledsoe playing like 23 minutes. That was not supposed to be the plan. Alexander Walker and Bledsoe was on pace to play about 30 minutes. The game blew out late. Alexander Walker was on pace to play about 25-26, basically split minutes or so, and then play some alongside Lonzo Ball. So I have right now Alexander Walker projected for 26 minutes. He's not completely out of play on a 3-game slate, but he doesn't look like a 30-minute type guy, which would actually look like a really strong play today. I have Bledsoe projected for 30. He's not completely in play today, but he looks like a decent play, right? He doesn't look like a great play, but he's in a player pool for me. Also, Joe Ingles returned for Utah, who we'll talk about Utah, but this is another thing just from rotations, looking into them, giving you as much knowledge, smacking you around as much as I can with the knowledge. So Joe Ingles returned. I don't know if it was the plan, but he was only playing like 5-minute stints as well. He only ended up playing like 20 to 22 minutes in the last game, which let Jordan Clarkson, yet again, as he has been playing, play around 30 minutes. He played 29 minutes, played very well. I don't know if that's going to be the plan. Bojan's playing better right now. I think it was more so because Ingles was coming back from an injury. So if Ingles gets back to 26 to 28 minutes, probably closer to 26, then Clarkson's going to directly lose those minutes and go around 24, 25. But as of right now, I'm giving Ingles like 24 minutes. I'm giving Clarkson like 27, 28, and it makes them both look like okay options. Again, neither of them standouts. Clarkson definitely the higher ceiling, but we kind of have to see what's happening there. We didn't get any news on a minutes limit for Ingles, but based on the minutes that he was playing, they were very similar to Lonzo's. These 5-minute stints, control the minutes at the start of the quarter. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So what that basically sums up is that Nickeil Alexander-Walker is not a bad play tonight, but he's not the guy that you can project for 30 minutes. The blowout run ended up getting him an extra 5 minutes or so. He basically took Eric Bledsoe's final fourth quarter rotation. If Bledsoe gets that, Bledsoe's playing 28 minutes in the game, probably plays closer to 29, 30, and then Alexander Walker's just playing like 25 to 26, which is what he was on pace for, playing 13 minutes in the first half, while Bledsoe played about 15 minutes in the first half. Heading over to New York now, we can scroll so you can finally see the rest of the guys on New York and Utah, so you're not going to see any guys on here from New Orleans. If I had to pick one, it would probably be Zion, and then the rest of them are in, like, there's a lot of guys in a player pool for me, right? A lot of guys look decent, not Lonzo, but guys look decent, whether it is going to be some of the guys we talked about, like Bledsoe, Alexander Walker. I mean, Ingram's not completely out of play. I just prefer Zion and some other guys on this slate, especially when Ingram is like priced right next to LeBron and AD at this point. Really hard to justify that on DraftKings. But we can close out the slate with New York, who are going to be probably the priorities on this slate for me, at least on the top end. And then Julius Randle is going to be the main guy here. It's really tough to get away from Julius Randle when Tibbs is just playing these guys massive minutes, right? So Julius Randle is going to be coming into this game fresh off of a 39-minute game. He's not only center eligible, so you can get the power forward spot out of him to try and get some of those values, whether it's a Brooke Lopez or James Wiseman or Montrezl Harrell. But you're just getting big minutes here. You had the one game against Boston that was just a blowout. They ended up losing by 30, so he only plays 31 minutes. But outside of that, you're getting 39 minutes, 38 minutes, 40 minutes, 38 minutes, right? If the game doesn't blow out, you're basically getting 38 to 40 plus minutes out of him. 40 minutes, 43 minutes, 37 minutes if you're looking at some other competitive games over the last couple of weeks. I have Randle right now projected for 38 minutes, and I have him as my top play on the slate tonight, not only on SuperDraft like we said earlier, so check out SuperDraft, but also on DraftKings tonight. He's my top play, projecting out for right around 47 to 48 fantasy points. It just looks too good for the minutes that you're getting. The fact that this is a close spread of just 5 points, the fact that the matchup against either James Wiseman or Draymond Green is going to be a beneficial one for this new and improved Julius Randle looks very good to me. Now you get to the guards. Again, as of right now, Frank Ntilikina and Austin Rivers are doubtful. Both those guys, I mean, not really Ntilikina, but Austin Rivers playing bigger minutes in starting games as of late. Alec Burks is expected to return today, so we like to see that. Alec Burks is somebody that I think is going to be very intriguing today. So originally I gave him 28 minutes, but now I'm giving him 30 minutes, and he starts to grade out as a very good play. Alec Burks is my number 5 overall play tonight, assuming that he indeed starts and is going to be playing out there. Alec Burks, again, he's only played 3 games. He got hurt in that 3rd game, so only 82 minutes of play so far this year, but a 25% usage rate. When he has been playing, it's hurt Alfred Payton, who's playing alongside of him and taking away Payton's usage. You're also getting right now Alec Burks averaging 1.25 fantasy points per minute. Obviously, he's had a couple of good games when he has been active, a 20% assist percentage, rebounds decently as well for a guard, around 13%. I'm not going to project him for 1.25, but I'm going to project him for like around 0.9, 0.95 fantasy points per minute. He's been very good long-term for fantasy in his career. So Alec Burks for me at $5,300. If he starts to become a priority, because I think we can start to expect, like, there's a chance Alec Burks can play 34, 35 minutes today. If he's playing well and he's out there and he's healthy, right? There's also a chance that they say there's a minutes limit on him and he plays 25 or 26 and he's not really in play. But as of right now, assuming you get the start out of him, projecting him for kind of in the middle ground of 30 minutes, I like Alec Burks. RJ Barrett's on here just because it's a short slate and you're going to get a lot of minutes. RJ Barrett, very similar to Julius Randle, neck and neck. They're basically each playing like 37 to 40 minutes a night. And RJ Barrett's been good. 24% usage rate, 14.4% assist percentage. Good from a fantasy perspective in terms of how much usage and volume he's getting. The fantasy points per minute have really dropped, though. Instead of averaging 1+ like he did to start here, he's at about 0.9 right now. But again, he's taking on a lot of volume. His true shooting percentage has not been great, just 42% effective field goal rate. So RJ Barrett at $6,900, again, in that range of Drew Holiday's, Jordan Clarkson's, and Andrew Wiggins. I probably prefer to go closer to an Andrew Wiggins or a Drew Holiday as of right now. But if the ownership is going to be very minimal on a 3-game slate for Barrett, we quickly pivot to Barrett. I put Alfred Payton on the slate because he's still going to play probably 30+ minutes with these guys out. Reggie Bullock should pick up some more minutes as well. But I do think that if Alec Burks is starting, then I'm going to be taking Alec Burks for $500 less over Alfred Payton, and I'll probably just dump off Alfred Payton. Payton has been good, right? 24% usage rate, close to a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy, assist percentage above 20%. But when he's been on the court so far this season with Alec Burks, and again, this is a very small sample, but when he has been on the court so far this season with Alec Burks, you're seeing so far Alfred Payton really lose the assist percentage. It goes from like 23% to 16%. That's not good. You're seeing the usage rate go from like 25, 26% to 22%. The only upside thing here is that Alec Burks is a good scorer. So when those assists are actually being converted, they're going to be converted at a higher rate than if you have a guy like, let's just say, Reggie Bullock on the court or a Frank Ntilikina who has not been scoring as much, which does, although the assist percentage go down, the actual volume assists might be going up because people are converting a little bit more. So not a terrible play in a 3-game slate for Payton. You can get the 32 minutes out of him, but I'll take Alec Burks if he's going to be starting. Quickly, so other guys in this team, Obi Toppin's just 3,200. Toppin's have been playing in some games 2 minutes, 8 minutes. The rookie, their first-round pick, they're trying to ramp him up. But we have also seen a 17-minute game out of him, and at $3,200, if they give him 18 minutes tonight, maybe tonight's the night he gets 20 minutes, he's going to be in play. So he's not a fantastic option. I only have him projected for about 15, 16 fantasy points on a 3-game slate, but he might play 6 minutes tonight and be terrible. But he could also play 18, 20 minutes tonight, especially since they're down some bodies, and maybe they get a little bit more run out of him in a competitive game. Not the biggest team in the world in Golden State either. So you can get 18 minutes out of Obi Toppin tonight in 20 fantasy points, and I wouldn't be shocked at $3,200, right? We've seen that type of run already, 17 minutes 2 games ago. So at least worth mentioning Obi Toppin. Emmanuel quickly at $4,100 will directly benefit from there being no Austin Rivers and also no Frank Ntilikina. There still has been no Dennis Smith, right? So I think you're going to be seeing, I haven't projected right now, Emmanuel quickly for 21 minutes. You can definitely see 22, 24. He's been a very good producer so far this season, just not getting a lot of minutes in general. So today opens up a better opportunity for that, but the minutes have been ramping up as the season has gone on. He's averaging 18 minutes per game right now. Emmanuel quickly is averaging 1.02 fantasy points per minute when he's on the court, a 24% usage rate and a 25% assist percentage. The floater has been working miraculously for him and fantastic. It was all over the place in that Orlando game, low scoring game the last time out. So Quickly's in play. It's Quickly basically right now in the 4K range. It's Quickly and Wiseman that stand out to me. If Quickly doesn't pick up ownership, we'll pivot to Quickly. Wiseman's probably the more stable play, but if it's like 3 times the amount of ownership, we pivot to Quickly and we can get different elsewhere. So if you haven't already noticed, the Knicks are the team. Like, I like Milwaukee a lot as just pay up options, whether it's Chris Middleton and Giannis ideally, but we'll have to see what the salary looks like. But the Knicks are the team that's loaded today, right? Like, you have Randall and Giannis is going to be tough unless you're playing some of the value to get together. But those are the 2 pay up priorities for me. Randall's cheaper now. He was like almost $10K a week ago. Now he's $8,800, still playing bigger bigger minutes and a fine matchup. And then the Knicks, just because of some injuries at the guard position and the overall amount of minutes that they play, have to be in play on a short slate. To finish up the slate, we can talk about Utah right now, which these guys aren't priorities. Jordan Clarkson, again, we have to keep in mind what's happening with Joe Ingles. He came back from injury, only played like 5-minute stints, so he only played in the low 20s of minutes, like 20 minutes flat, while Jordan Clarkson was again pushing 30 minutes. I don't know if that remains. Clarkson's kind of priced for like a 30-minute role now, so if he gets dropped down to like 25 minutes, he's not going to produce for you more times than not. If I had to pick one guy from this team, it would be Rudy Gobert, who might go a little bit under noticed, but it seems like people are always on Gobert because he's just a fair price point at $7,200. But if Wiseman's going to be highly owned today, maybe it leads it so that people play Randall, maybe it leads it so people play Anthony Davis or some other options, and you just don't land on Rudy Gobert lineup construction-wise. Gobert would be one if I had to pick. None of these guys are going to be standout options for me, though. I think that they're all just kind of in-play pivot options. Let's just say you're in the range of Donovan Mitchell. You have like $8,400 left, want to leave $400 on the table. That's a decent option to do so. None of them going to be priorities, though, for me. Right now, let's see where I have these Utah guys ranked overall tonight, just in terms of point per dollar upside. The first guy that pops up from Utah for me is going to be Rudy Gobert. He ranks out as my 6th overall play tonight. He does look good. He continues to look good. He doesn't look like that much of a great option on Superdraft. It looks like an average play, but he looks good on DraftKings. It's just a matter of lineup construction. Can you get to him? Do you want to go up a little bit more and get to Randall, which I would want to be doing right now, or even Giannis? If you want to go down a little bit more, my other Utah guys are basically Jordan Clarkson is my number 14 play, and Donovan Mitchell is my number 15. So they're just kind of average plays. Go down a little bit more. Bojan starts to become in play, like my 18th overall play. Mike Conley, my 21st overall play. So Gobert would definitely be my favorite option, and the rest of them just kind of look like interesting options. Gobert, can I get to him lineup construction-wise in my main single entry lineup tonight? Definitely 150s. My main single entry 3-max lineups. We'll have to see. We'll talk about that more in the 4 p.m. live show. So be sure to hit the like, subscribe, notification bell so you know when we go live. So do all those things. We'll be live at 4 p.m. East Coast time, breaking down the slate. An MMA video will be out today from Manish. Manish is a new creator on this channel, so be sure to check out his work. It's fantastic. He's well informed, and it's also a beautiful, beautiful delivery of what he has to say about the Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier 257 fight. The entire card he'll be breaking down from a betting and DFS standpoint today. So be sure to check that out. Show him some love on his Twitter, on his YouTube page as well. Be sure to subscribe and follow over there. We'll be getting the projections. They're already out, so be sure to go down below on Patreon. MMA projections as well on Patreon now, and ownership and rankings will be out for there. NBA, PGA starts today, depending on when you're watching this. It starts at noon, so be sure you get into that as well. A bunch of tools on Patreon. Support the sponsor of the show, Superdraft. We're in their nice little quarter zip, Nike quarter zip. It's very nice, comfortable. So shout out them. See you all at 4 p.m. today. And if I don't, have a great rest of your day, and maybe even have a great rest of your weekend.